Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. We're back on the racing front again with the Ante Post Pointers, and today we are looking forward to the Oaks at Epsom, which is just 10 days away now, run on the 4th of June. Very much looking forward to it, and we're going to be running through the runners and riders and just take a look at the market after the trials have been run. So obviously the Oaks, the next classic for fillies after the 1,000 guineas, which we had a couple of weeks ago now, and we're shaping up for what could be a slightly smaller field than usual. We'll have to wait till final decks are out before we can say that for sure, but that's the way it's kind of going at the moment. So anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Adam because he's going to be running you through the top horses in the betting, and we're going to start with Santa Barbara, fourth in the 1,000 guineas, a horse that we've talked about a lot on this channel. But still comes in as favourite for this race at around the 15 to 8 mark as we speak. Perhaps a run that would have disappointed people, Adam, if they'd backed for that particular race, but plenty of encouragement for something like this.
Yeah, I think you can see it two ways with Santa Barbara. If you were one of those that were on at the fancy prices for the 1,000 guineas, the hype horse, as we mentioned many a time, if you were on at 10, 8, 6, 5 even to 1 for the 1,000 guineas, and she finished fourth, going off 5-2 joint favourite on the day, you would be disappointed with the fourth. I wasn't on Santa Barbara, and if you take a fresh look with the Oaks in mind, I thought Santa Barbara ran an absolutely perfect trial for the Oaks. You've got to remember that the 1,000 guineas was only a second start. She was the hype horse, and there's no excuses for her not winning really, other than it was a second start. If you want to forgive her that, thought she ran perfectly well. Travelled really nicely through the race. Ran a little bit green into and coming out of the dip, and at that stage, I think, when the chance was gone and the winner was gone, I think Ryan Moore possibly, had one eye on the future.
Looked after her a little bit.
Yeah, looked after her a little bit. Didn't really ride her out. I think she definitely could have finished second if Ryan wanted her to finish second. She finished fourth in the end. Now I'm not saying, that you should be. I'm not advising anyone to be smashing into Santa Barbara for the Oaks at 15 to 8 at this stage, 10 or so days out. But what I am saying is I would certainly much rather back her at 15 to 8 for the Oaks now than 15 to 8 for the 1,000 guineas at a similar stage before that race, if you see what I mean. So she was about this price for the guineas 10 days before the guineas. I wouldn't have, no way would I have backed her then. I said that many times. And she's about the same price, 15 to 8, at about the same time away from the race, 10 days before the Oaks. I think she's a better prospect for the Oaks than she was the Guineas. But it is only going to be a third start. Again, she's priced upon reputation more than form. And we're going to come on to at least one horse that finished in front of her in the 1,000 guineas that is a lot bigger price that I'm sure we'll come on to, Palmer. But, I mean, generally, looking at the Oaks it's this time round, I think away from the top of the market, it is a little bit disappointing in terms of quality and depth. We'll come on to that. And it's no surprise to see Aidan O'Brien with the first two in the market, Palmer.
Yeah, he certainly is. And you're just touching on Santa Barbara there, finishing fourth in the 1,000 guineas. We're all good each way bet seem to finish there. And there have been a lot of disappointed punters with bigger slips at 10, 8, 6, etc. So, maybe she'll, make amends for that here, but not much of a price about it. Now, as we said, Aidan O'Brien, the top two in the betting, and his second favourite in the race as it stands is Snowfall at around the 4 to 1 marker. Surprise winner of the Musadora at York over 10 furlongs. And remarkably, that is Aidan O'Brien's only trial winner in the UK so far this season. So what do we make of her chances?
Yeah, I thought she was pretty good in the York race at the Musadora, to be honest. Won it by an easy 3 1/4 lengths. I thought the further they went, the better she was. She was going further away at the line. She went off 14 to 1 that day, Pam. And I think that, as you say, was a reflection of O'Brien's lack of winners or even any of them getting close in UK trial races. That includes both Guineas, the Derby and the Oaks. There's plenty of them in the UK, from Newmarket to Lingfield to York to Chester, and this was the only one that he's managed to win. She went off 14 to 1 that day, and from the front. And to be honest, Pineman never really looked like losing. She's one of those. She's a bit different. She's very different to Santa Barbara in that Snowfall had 7 runs as a juvenile. Her only win coming in a maiden, but she was highly tried, and thereafter running in a Group 3, a Group 2, and 3, a couple of Group 1s as well. So highly tried without winning and finishing down the field in many of those races, but clearly good enough to be taking part in the view of Mr. O'Brien. But yeah, like I say, like I've said about York many times, Pie Man. What do I say? of the York form.
York and Chester, I think we have some question marks over, don't
so
we?
York, take no notice. But I mean, look, you can't. There's nothing wrong with what Snowfall did. As always, well bred for the job. And yes, scooted clear to be honest, but did dominate that race from the front that day. Which will bring us, we'll be coming back to that Musadora race 2 or 3 times in the coming minutes, I imagine, Pieman.
Yeah, obviously she's in there at 4-1, and yeah, a definite contender. But York and Chester, very much specialist tracks, as we've said. You've got to take that form with a bit of a pinch of salt, I think, when you're looking at a race like this. And just as Aidan O'Brien had the first 2 in the market, the next 2 in the market by the same trainer as well, and that's Roger Varian. And he's got Zayada first, in around the 8-1 mark as we speak. Arrived at Chester unbeaten. Looked a little bit unlucky to lose her unbeaten streak. What did you make of that, Smido?
A typical example of an unlucky horse around Chester. I think there's a couple of things to say really, Pieman. I don't want to lug Chester into the same bracket as York and vice versa. I think York, is it's a fair track in terms of flat and wide open, long straight, etc. I just don't think the form stacks up at York often enough. I think there's some random results, whether that be the ground or a draw bias or a pace bias, I do not know. Chester, on the other hand, is an extremely difficult track, very, very tight. You're turning all the way round the corners, etc. And horses like Zayada will be unlucky from time to time. Like I say, just a typical example. Dubai Fountain, a horse that we'll come on to, won that race from the front. I mean, it's the same old story from Chester, but I don't think that race looked very good, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was. I thought that I don't think the form's up to much. Zayada, if you watch the replay, he's going to catch the attention because she was travelling well, coming around the bend, stuck in a pocket, and finished off a race nicely. But when the chance had already gone, so I don't want to get too carried away with that form. And you've mentioned Roger Varian's got the first 2 in the market, and it leads us nicely on to Teona, the one that I would prefer out of the 2, Pieman.
Well, yeah, Teona, 3rd behind Snowfall in that Musadora. But yeah, she's not been without her supporters in the betting. She's around the 8-1 mark too. So tell us why you like her.
Yeah, this is definitely the one I like, Pieman. I know what we've said about York, but I've watched the replay of this one a couple of times today. Yeah, Teona was too free. She raced way too free and wasted a lot of energy early doors, to be honest, and she wasn't settling. Now, she will definitely need to put that right going into Epsom and beyond. So she'll need to have matured and settled down a bit. Don't get me wrong, that would be a concern. But if Roger Varian can straighten that out of her, then that would give her a right good chance here. Teona, like I say, Snowfall won from the front and raced at the front throughout and stayed there. Teona was quite a lot further back, and coming around the bend into the long York straight, I thought she made some really nice smooth progress. And she looked the winner 2 furlongs out, to be honest, Pieman. She was the last one off the bridle. But like I say, she's wasted that energy early on in that race, and when she was asked for the effort, it wasn't quite there as it should have been, and Ryan was gone on Snowfall. She can't afford to be racing freely like that going forward, but I think she's got a cracking chance going into this 8-1. She was about 11 or 12-1 right after the race at York. Now she's into 8-1. I think she will go off shorter than her stablemate Zayada, who we've already mentioned. Teona's father won the Derby, see the stars. Her mother was a Group 1 winner for the same trainer, Roger Varian, and actually finished 3rd in an Epsom Group 1 over course and distance, the Coronation Cup. That was ambivalent. And her grandfather on a mother's side, authorised, also won the Derby. So she's certainly bred to do the job. She's had the 3 starts, won one of those impressively at Newcastle, and think she ran a pretty decent trial at York, despite not winning.
There you go, then. Quite a compelling case for Teona, and I think we can see what way you're leaning in this race already. But there are a few more that we just want to touch on at slightly bigger prices, getting into the double figures realms as we speak now. And this is a 12-1 chance. Dubai Fountain, trained by Mark Johnson, another recent Chester winner. We've talked about the Chester form and stuff. But what do you make of her prospects?
Yeah, so she had decent form as a juvenile. Particularly, she was a busy horse, as many of the Mark Johnstons are. But in the last 5 starts, going all the way from listed race up to Group 1, she was, finishing behind good horses like plenty we've mentioned really. Fev Rover, Star of Emirati, Etonian, Indigo Gill, Pretty Gorgeous, all horses we've mentioned on this channel previously. So she was showing good form without winning. Like you say, winner of the Cheshire Oaks last time, had Zayada behind, as we've mentioned. But like I say, I thought it was a poor renewal in truth. She could well lead around Epsom in the Oaks. You wouldn't be surprised to see Dubai Fountain in front, coming round the bend. Depends how many O'Brien runs, as always. But yeah, Dubai Fountain wouldn't be for me, to be honest.
Now we'll move on from that one then, and we've got well, a little bit of a special horse potentially in the form of Noon Star, 14-1 in running them famous Judmont colours that we associate with Frankel. Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, another one who raced in the Musadora, looked a potential star in the making. First time up at Wetherby this year, absolutely hacked up on that day. Really looked quite impressive. Was eventually second in the Musadora, but kind of when asked for an effort, hung right. She ended up hanging one way, then hanging the other. So there's question marks there when she's under pressure. Did eventually finish second, so don't get me wrong. She finished in front of my selection, Teona, but had quite a very different race to the winner and Teona. To be fair, it was a little bit of a messy race. That only the 7 runners there at York, they were strung out early, then they come up the straight, and Snowfall's stayed straight as a bullet, and the other, Teona's come wide, and Noon Star's kind of drifted one way then the other. So wouldn't quite be for me. So Michael Stout doesn't have many classic runners at all nowadays, to be honest. I wouldn't actually be surprised if Noon Star didn't turn up at all, but she should do, given a profile. But when your dad's called Galileo and your mummy's 5-time Group 1 winner Midday, I don't think you can be written off. But yeah, she's 14-1 for a reason. Not for me at this stage.
Another one bred for the job, but she's quite a big price, and be interesting to see if that changes as we get near a race day. Last one we're going to touch on an individual basis at least is Saffron Beach, and this is a horse that you mentioned it earlier, actually beat the favourite Santa Barbara in the 1,000 guineas, but is 7 times the price as I speak. So tell us about Saffron Beach.
Yeah, it's just one of them, Pam, we see it often maybe from an unfashionable yard, if you like, for Jane Chapel-Hine, particularly. Well, let's word that another way. She's not from an O'Brien or a Gosden yard, let's put it that way. But yeah, she ran a perfectly good race at Newmarket in the Nell Gwyn, which is the 1,000 guineas trial. Then ran a perfectly good race in the 1,000 guineas itself, finishing second behind Mother Earth. Yeah, stayed on pretty well, to be honest. But the question is, over stamina, is she going to get a 1.5 miles? Now, a Mother never raced beyond a mile in her 4 starts. She's by New Bay, who's quite a new sire, French-based he was, Group 1 winner himself. But he's yet to really prove his stamina influence as a stud. He proved it on the track, don't get me wrong. He certainly stayed a 1.5 miles. He was third in an arc, which is over a 1.5 miles. But yeah, I'm not too sure about this horse staying as an individual. She's definitely in with a place chance if she's staying, and looks reasonably talented and should definitely be taking a place in this. But I'm not sure if she'll stay, to be honest, Pineman. And I think that a lot of the horses have kind of put question marks over them. I think there's only 3 horses that can win this race, to be honest, as I've looked at it. Santa Barbara, obvious, I know. Snowfall, again, obvious, I know. And Teona. There might be 3 of the top 4 in the betting, but they're the ones who I think that I can't see any of them 3 not winning this race, to be honest. And the Oaks is a race where the average SP over the last 10 years is it's over 14-1. It's one of the highest in Group 1s in the UK over the last 10 years. So often we do get something from out of nowhere winning. Sometimes, of course, from the Aidan O'Brien yard, the 4th or even 5th string has won this race before, but I can't get away from them 3 at the moment, to be honest, Pineman. And if I had to have a bet, and I have backed her, Teona would be the one for me.
There you go then, quite conclusive. And, we've run through the top 7 in the betting there, but would there be any worth a mention at fancier prices?
Yeah, there was the Lingfield Oaks trial further down the betting, the likes of Sherbet Lemon that won that as a 28-1 shot out of nowhere for Archie Watson. She's 33-1 for this. Also in that Lingfield Oaks trial was Savour Forest. She was, I think, 18-1 to win that race. So that really tells you all you need to know about the Lingfield Oaks trial itself. They were 1 and 2 in that respectively. Again, it didn't look like a good race, and to be honest, the Lingfield Oaks trial has only provided 1 winner of the Oaks itself this century, so it's difficult really, and they're a mile behind on ratings. Snow Lantern is a horse we've spoken about that was she going to run in the 1,000 guineas? No. And then where was she going to go after that? Well, she actually went to York for a listed race over a mile. So she's not exactly been trained as if she's going to be running in the Oaks. She still entered, but if she did turn up, would be interesting at 33 to 1, but certainly one I can't really advise. And then, as always, there is some Aidan O'Brien horses that haven't won this season. Divinely still entered. La Joncades, I can't even say that one. 50 to 1, the pair of them ones, and Willow, one at the start of the year that was talked up a little bit, but she's had 2 starts for O'Brien this year and not one. But like I say, O'Brien has won this race with a 50 to 1 shot in the last few years. I think qualify in 2015 or 2014 was 50 to 1, beating the hot favourite on the day, also in those famous colours. So yeah, I just can't see any way away from the top 3 in the market plan, man. I think Santa Barbara will be better at this distance compared to the Guineas, but I can't advise to bet her at the price. Snowfall, very exposed, but was decent enough last time. But yeah, I just think Teona would be the one where my money's going. And if she is declared, and if she is still around 7 or 8 to 1, I would advise her each way on the day, but I don't bet each way Ante Post.
Well, there you go then, Teona, the selection, and that is our run through of the Epsom Oaks, which is only 10 days away now on the 4th of June. But just before we finish and wrap up, I did just want to ask you, pick your brains about, there is another Group 1 running on that exact same day, over the exact same distance, the exact same track, but it's for older horses. It's the Coronation Cup. Any thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, Al Arce, a horse that's our viewers will be familiar with, that's won twice at Newbury this year. As we said, it would both times. Yeah, he's even money for this, which could be a little bit short, because depending on what O'Brien sends over, and there's a whole host of potentials from the O'Brien yard, including Japan, and more significantly, including Love, who did not race at the Curragh in Ireland over the weekend because of the bad ground there. So she's going to be in search of some better ground. As always with the O'Brien runners that have potential to run in the Coronation Cup, they also have a second choice of Royal Ascot in the Prince of Wales Stakes. They will not run in both. So yeah, Al Arce is even money currently. Japan's 3 to 1. Love is as big as 5 to 1, which certainly would not be the case if she turned up on the day. In Swoop is 9. Pile Driver 9. We've mentioned Pile Driver before. Hookham, if you like, won at Goodwood over the weekend. He's an 8 to 1 shot, but runs in the same colours as Al Arce, so probably isn't going to run. And then the further down you go, the more unlikely they are to run, if you like. I think of the 18 or so entries at the moment, I think O'Brien's got at least half of them. It's just a bit of a Mickey take, to be honest, but we're used to seeing that. So it'll be Al Arce as the favourite, and then the second favourite will be whatever the first choice O'Brien runner is. But like you say, a couple of Group 1s on the first Friday in June for you, Pineman.
Yeah, you certainly can't complain. It's a nice start to June, isn't it? And we're going to be looking forward to both races nearer the time as well. But we hope you enjoyed watching this preview. Do let us know what you're backing in the comments. We're always interested and appreciate any feedback. Do give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. We've got lots more content going on in the channel, so have a look around and give us that all-important subscribe if you can. It helps us keep producing more content. So that all that remains is for me to thank you for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.